Okay, in this video we are going to look at putting cross bracing in our bridge. Your bridge probably has straws up here. You did some fusion analysis, some modal analysis, saw that it twisted. When you broke it, it might have had some problems with staying straight up here. Notice you have cross bracing on the sides because you're adding load here and it's keeping it straight. Now we've got the same issue here. Without that cross bracing, you don't have a lot of structural integrity in this dimension because it wants to twist this way. So we'll learn how to do that. What's nice about this is we can edit this and edit this right in the assembly. We can build it right in the assembly. This is a Part Studio that's referencing the assembly that we've already put everything together. So it's pretty nice way to do this. So let's pop over to our video project, which here we still have our circles here, so we're going to have to go and modify those. So these are for the straws, and we're going to put some wood up there now. So our current bridge looks like this, and as you can see, we don't have it yet. So let's go and add some cross bracing. Now, you might have more nodes. You probably do. What's nice is that if you drew it this way, you only have one of each unique node. So we need to add a notch to these two, and that'll get done automatically or parametrically if we modify our original sketch. Now, we're not changing any of these things, so that shouldn't cause any issues. So the first thing we need to do is probably get rid of that. We don't need a straw there anymore, so we'll just get rid of that. And then let's do a center point rectangle. And we're going to use wood here. So actually I've had a notch. I made a video, cross brace notch. Sorry, I made a variable here. I didn't make a variable. I'm going to make a variable right now for that. If you want to make your own variables, if I don't have it, I don't have, oh, do I have cross brace width there? I do. I might use that. I forgot I had that. So let's go back to Side Part Studio and the width here. D is dimension. Let's go add cross brace width. There it is. I thought I did that before. And then we'll add a dimension here, which is going to be wood thickness. Now, things seem to be fitting together just fine. If you need to add a little more to that, you can. That'll make that a little bit bigger to fit the wood in there. People have been having plenty of success, I think, with just having that the same thickness as the wood. Obviously, if you're trying to put a part of a certain thickness into a notch of the same thickness, it can have trouble. This is pretty small, so it kind of deforms the wood, and it works. So there we go. And now we've got a notch instead of a circle or a straw strut hole. So let's see what happens. Look at that. It figured out that we wanted to switch that out. So there we go. We've got a notch there, a rectangular notch. So we can go and check our bridge side, make sure everything looks good there. And sure enough, this is the beauty of a parametric design. It's already updated. And let's look at our full bridge. Now, of course, those straws were created by the replicate up here, and now they just disappeared because nothing, the holes didn't match up. So it couldn't replicate those, which is great. There were no errors created by changing that, which means we're ready to create our cross bracing. So the way we're going to do that is going to be something new. We used to go and build this all in a single Part Studio and create two sides, and it just didn't lend itself well to a lot of things. So here we're going to go and add those into the assembly. Now this is a new feature you probably haven't used, but we're going to do what's called editing in context. The context is this assembly. So let's do that. First thing we have to do that, we have to create a mate connector for where we want to reference our drawing or our Part Studio. It's going to create its planes left, right, top, bottom at a certain location. We got to tell it where in this assembly do we want that kind of the origin to be, really the planes. So we want it to be halfway through this notch. So we have to create a mate connector that's going to allow us to do that. So what we can do is we can create a mate, and we can do what's called between entities, since we want it halfway between. Kind of like we drew these nodes with a symmetric extrude. So we're going to do that one, and we're going to go, oops, we're going to go up to the top of it. Can't quite see it. And look what it did. Put a mate connector right there. And that's going to be where our new Part Studio. So if you don't see it, it's hiding up here. Create Part Studio in context. If you search for context, there it is. Create Part Studio in context. I'll click it here. And now we do have to click on mate connector. So we're going to click on that one. And there we go. And once we do that, it creates a new Part Studio. Part Studio 1. We're going to rename this. Call it Cross Brace. You might have multiple of these Part Studios because you have different nodes that have different angles, or maybe you have a kind of a rounded top of your bridge. This is a pretty simple example, so we're just going to have one. Now notice what it did. It put our origin exactly on that mate connector right there. We really just need our top plane to see what's going on. So this is where we're going to draw our our cross brace on this top plane. All right, so let's get going. So easiest way to do it is just to use the use command. Notice it says it's showing the full bridge. We can actually make it more transparent or less transparent depending on what we like. Once we're done with our parts, we can insert them and go to the assembly. So that's all waiting for us. So let's go and get started. We're going to create a sketch. We can use our S command, which is nice. We're going to create a sketch, and we're going to pick the top plane. It's already there because we are already in that. And there's our sketch. So let's start with creating some sketch lines. One thing that's a little different is, although it seems to be working, we can reference these, but sometimes when we're drawing lines, we won't get access to the assembly. Notice it's only giving us the origin. That's helpful, but we need these bridge reference points. We need to know where that bridge node is, and it won't pick it up when we try to draw. So we got to use the use command. So we're going to use the use command, and we're going to make some construction lines. Actually, we'll first draw some solid lines. So we want the outline of our notch. So let's go and grab that. Not that, use, and we want it to be solid. That's what I meant. Notice it's projecting the lines we hover up onto our plane. So that's a projection there, and we're getting our notch. That's going to be our tab. So there's the first one, and we want to do this on the other side, same way. I want that line, and that line. This is just the project command, or use project. I call it project because projectors used to have film, and they would shine a light and project onto another plane. That's kind of what project means. Use is kind of like using a piece from another object or entity, but this is really projecting that up onto our plane. There's some benefits of using this halfway point. It gets a little tricky sometimes when we're trying to project onto it, but once you have these first lines done, you're pretty much there. We are going to use some symmetry to create our other half here, but we do need some reference points. So we are going to create some construction lines over here. Same thing I want, except I only need that one, and I only need this one. That was the outside edge there. Okay, so now that we have that, my N key will bring it in. I can make this a little bit more transparent because I'm going to start drawing on this. So some construction lines will be helpful here just for drawing this midpoint there to midpoint here. That's a good one. Actually, another one will be helpful I'll just use my QL from here to here. That's a good helpful one. And also from the other side, QL right here, halfway there, midpoint there to the midpoint here. Okay. So now we've got the outline. So let's draw a cross brace. So same thing, QL. I want to connect it here, and it doesn't really matter where. We're going to do some constraints. So now we have this moving up and down here, but I want some symmetry here. It's going to be much better for this bridge to have symmetry. I can do what's called a split. So that's under the scissors menu. So split. I can split. So split is it'll split this line into two pieces. It's important how you do this. You need to hover on the line you want to split, and then click on the. Oops. It gets a little tricky sometimes. Hover on the line you want to split, and then. Wait, did it do it? Nope. Still not split. Split. Hover on the line. Click the point. There we go. You can hover and see that it did it. Showing some constraints there, but I'm not clicking. And let's do the same thing over here. Split is highlighted, hover on the line. There we go. Now the reason I wanted to do that is I want to make that and that equal. So I'm going to choose equal and Viola. Notice what it does. Okay, we're going to use that later, but that's real handy. I want to give my tab some width here. I don't want to just, I kind of want to give it a little more strength than just straight across. I could just draw straight lines there, but I'm just going to use a regular old rectangle and drag it down. You can actually hover over that corner, go out a little bit, and notice it constrains that side. Hit escape. We don't want those dimensions. We do want a dimension here. And you can do whatever you want here. We're going to use some symmetry, so we don't have to do this more than once, but I'm going to say 1.5 millimeters. Okay, symmetry will give us the rest of it. So I'm going to mirror this. I click the mirror command, and I'm just going to pick the whole thing. Pick that, and I need to, don't forget, notice that's not filled in yet. We need this one. There we go. We got ourselves the piece that will replace the straw that was there. Now we need a straw tab because this has to be a straw by the specification. I can't put a piece all the way across there. So let's draw an aligned. Let's do this a lot like we did the original nodes, aligned rectangle. In this case, probably we can do this on any line, but we'll use this one here. So I'm gonna go coincident with the construction line, and then find that perpendicular point. Okay, that's all I want is perpendicular, and then bring it out. Now we can do these dimensions. Well, actually, we want to do. Let's just do this dimension. This is the straw tab width, D. D dimension, and that was the node straw tab width. This is cross bracing, but it doesn't matter. We'll just use the node, make that the same. And then we want this to be centered. So I'll do that the same way I did the straw tabs. It just seems to work. And we'll just drag that onto there. And now the last dimension we need is this one. It's how long this tab is. I want to make sure it stays the length that I use for my nodes, my side nodes. So I'm going to use this length, but I have to dimension that, and I can't get that point without putting a point there. So coincident puts a point there. Now I can dimension that. Escape D dimension. Oops. Oh, I got a dimension from the point to point. There we go. And now I'm going to do my length. Node straw tab length. That's a different kind of node, but it works. All right, so what else is missing? It's still blue. Escape. What's missing? All right, this dimension here. I actually want this to be, we can bring back the bridge again. This is what's nice about having the full bridge there. I want that to be so that that straw doesn't hit anything. So I'm going to dimension from here to here. So let's just do D, here to here. And let's make that, how about 5 millimeters? Seems good. Maybe, yeah, 5 millimeters should be a good start. And now we have a fully constrained sketch that has our straw tab. One other thing we're going to add right now, and that is we want that straw to be created, and we'll need a straw sketch, straw centerline sketch, just like we did for the sides. So I'm going to add another QL construction line. That was line and construction. And I'm going to bring that right from here to here. So this point right here is going to give me a point for the construction line. Now I want that to be on the other side because I want to stop it at the other side. I'm just going to make a point there so I can mirror it. Just made another point there. Okay. So all I need on the other side, this will be identical. This piece here will be the same one used there. And I can also mirror the node over there. I'm gonna use this twice. I'm not gonna make a copy. I'm not gonna make two in the Part Studio, just like I did with the nodes, because then if I change it, I gotta change two. I don't want to do that, and I might have a bunch of mirrors in here that I don't want to try to figure out. So I'm going to just mirror the point for the straw because I have to have that straw over there. So let's just mirror that point. I need to create a mirror line, so QL again. Let's go to the midpoint here, and let's just go down. Here's where I can hover over one of these lines and just get the, you don't have to constrain the bottom of this, but it sure is nice to have everything constrained. Escape, there's a mirror line. So let's do it now. Let's take that point. This is where the straw tab is going to end. So mirror, select the mirror line, and I want to mirror just that point. Okay. Now, oops, cannot mirror curves. I must have clicked on something else. Hang on, select entities to be mirrored. It should mirror that point. Cannot mirror curve points. What? Hang on. I want to mirror on that line. I just want to mirror a point. Why is that not working? Hold on. All right, well, I've defeated this thing in we'll mirror just the line. I think that'll give us what we need. So I'm not sure I've done this before. Oops, I got rid of my. So we're going to mirror line, and we're just going to mirror the whole line, and that gives us that point, which is what we need. Or now, so this is why I didn't want to do this. It's going to be the one closest to the center, this point. That's the correct line for our straw. I don't like that at all, but something is up where it won't let us mirror that point. Okay, so we have that now. We can go and draw our sketch. So let's finish this sketch, and we're going to add, let's extrude this, S key, so we can actually click here. We don't have to click anything. S key gives us this quick menu, and we can now start extruding our cross brace. Just grab all these little pieces. Wood thickness. Don't forget symmetric so that it's in that notch. You can preview everything here, which is really nice. It shows it all fitting into your assembly. And boom, we've got our cross brace. And we'll name this let's call it with the tab, cross brace tab. And now we're ready to draw the straw sketch. So that's also going to be on the top plane. Everything's on the top plane, just like we've always done in the past. And we're going to just use those reference points that we created. So first one, we're going to draw QL. We need a construction line. We're going to start right here. And now we want to go to the closest point to us, which should be this one. Notice I'll hover and snap. There we go. We've got our straw. And okay, now we're ready to do our straws. So we click our frame tool. It's not there, frame. And we need to pick our straw profile from our current document, and our straw profile is there. And selections, just this one line. If you're getting the other line, hide this sketch to make sure you just get the straw sketch. Sometimes if you have this one visible, it grabs the other line and it's too long. So I'm going to close that down, and there we go. So we've got a little overlap here. I'm not worried about that. The straw will deform a little bit to fit, and you know, you're going to be putting this between these two nodes, so everything's going to fit. You can always trim a little bit out of that. It's not going to make your bridge too long. This is more critical, what we fixed in the earlier video, that this is meshed perfectly with that corner, so your bridge is the right size. Okay, so we have what we need to start this cross brace, and we have this piece here. So the question is now, do we do a cut list here or not? Cut list is nice because it has everything in one Part Studio, and we only have one thing to name versus a whole bunch of nodes. Let's see what I did last time. Did I do a cut list here in the cross brace? I did. So this is a trade-off. Keeping everything on the same cut list is nice. If we go back to our drawing, you'll see that our page 2, sheet 2, notice this is a cut list for the straws, right? Here we have a bill of material, BOM table, for all of the nodes. Now, if we didn't include those cross brace pieces, we would have another bill of material with one piece on it, and then a cut list with the others. So I chose to actually bring everything together in this Part Studio because we don't have a bunch of renaming that we had to do like we would have had to do with the nodes. So this is always a choice for you to decide how you want to do this and how many extra steps you might want to do. So this gives you an example of both. So let's go to the cross brace. I'm going to transform this. So let me remember how I did this in here. I made the frame. There we are there. Here we are here. And then I transformed. I rotated it on a mate connector. That's what I did. Okay, let's go and look at how we'll do that. So yeah, let's show this sketch. Let's show this sketch. And let's just hide our parts right now. So I need a mate connector right here. Transform allows you to rotate, but you must use a mate connector. Control M, give you a mate connector. We need to pick a owner. Well, we need this to be up. We need a owner part. So let's pick the owner part. Oops, I got to show that part. Or I can click it down here. Now I want to pick. It's not wanting to show up. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you orbit around, you can get that. Just get it to the right point. Back to end. Just. Oh, I'm not in it. Oh, that didn't do right. That didn't go right. I want to pick the cross brace tab as the owner part, and I want that to go up. So a lot of times this, well, let's just try and see if we can rotate it with this. Nope. Hang on. Okay, what I did do is put a point in the straw sketch. So I put a point right here, the midpoint, and that made it point up. Control M and owner part, cross brace tab, origin entity. There. So by having a point there, it lets it point up. We need it to point up because we're going to rotate around that axis. Okay. Shoo. Again, I went into the straw sketch here and I put the point. I just drew a point right there. Okay. Now we can transform. And I want to rotate. And I want to pick the cross brace tab. And I want to rotate about, see, you have to have a mate connector. And there we go, 180, flipped it all the way around, and we want to copy it. Now, I made a copy. That's going to create a different part number, but because I'm going to use the cut list, which is going to take this whole thing and put it into a composite part, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to put it into the bill of materials in the assembly. It's going to be added to the top bill of materials as just a single part called cross brace. My cut list will have all the detail. So, and I'll rename this right now to straw for the cross brace, and part 3, I could do the same thing I did before if I want to get fancy and rename these both. Call it with tab this time just for cleanliness. Okay, so I've got 2 parts that are identical with cross brace tab. Now we have it. We've got everything in here. A lovely cross brace, all one composite part. It will be a composite part once we're done. Looks good. It is. We're just about ready to insert that and put it into the assembly, but we want to do one more thing, and that is to create the cut list. That is going to be here. Don't click on the frame tool. That's going to make the straws again. We're going to do cut list. Okay, we only have 1 frame. We need that, except this is different. We want to use the straw and these. The frame is this piece. That won't include all the pieces. So the cut list can include pieces that were not created with the frame. That's what's nice about it. Just to have our names right, I'll add column override. So we want to pick the cross brace pieces, and I'll call that name. This is the only way for the name to be propagated into the cut list, so that's why I do it. And I don't want same as previous, but I just want the straw. And I will do name, and I'll call that okay. Now I can look at my cut list over here, and I have the name column. I can get rid of the angle. I don't need that since I have 90-degree corners on it. Okay, straw has a length, which I need. Cross brace tab does not need one. It is showing the correct quantity, which is 2 items. So now I also have a composite part which was created, and I'll rename that. Just call it cross brace. Enter. Okay, so I'm going to select that. I'm going to actually hide. Oh, they're part of the cross. Okay, so I want to insert this into the assembly because it's not there yet. I just drew it in this part studio. Technically, it has not been put into the assembly, so I can select that composite part. Just to make sure. See, I have 1 part selected, just the cross brace composite part. That's going to go in the assembly. It's going to be It's going to be in the assembly. It's going to be 1 part. Here, it's 3 parts. 2 unique parts. So let's go insert and go to assembly. I want to insert that part, cross brace, And here I go. And Viola. It knows where it's supposed to go. But let's see. Is it actually locked in there? No. It's just set in there. Now, there's two choices here. One, we could mate it just like we used to do with the corner. Or we could group this whole thing together and make a group out of it, because everything's already in place. Now, when we group things, we have to suppress the mates, which is fine. We want to leave them in there. Uh-oh. Actually, no, we don't want to do that because it broke our replicate. So hang on a sec. We don't want to include our struts in there. We just want to include the sides. So we can hold down control, sides. Oops. Oh, never mind. We don't need control. I always forget Onshape. You don't need control. We've got 2, and we'll group that with the cross brace. So now we'll group it, and the other group failed. Suppress that and see what happens. Oh, wait, hang on. Okay, group works really well when you're trying to group something you brought in from a part studio, but it does not appear to work very well when you're trying to take a part and group it with other parts that have already either been grouped or are already coming from other part studios. So we're just going to use a mate connector. It's not hard. So we're just going to use a mate connector just like we always have. And we'll bring that over here, hold down Shift to get the end, and there, and that's it. It's almost this, it's a few more steps than group. Group was draw a box and group. This was click, 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 click. So 2 more clicks. So now we should be able to check. Yep, that's all one piece. And now we have our cross bracing all ready to go. So if you want to, notice as we've got an arrow here, which means this was drawn in context. So we can right click. If you change the assembly, you can update that context and it'll update that part studio. It doesn't automatically do that, you have to do that. So if you notice things aren't lining up, you'll have to go back. You can also go and choose edit the context from here, so it jumps us right into the part studio. There we go. And then we have our part studio with that all in place. Didn't change anything here when we put it in the assembly, but now you can go back here and just see it as a normal part studio. It is referencing parts of that assembly, which is why it has the little arrow there on that sketch. If you somehow break that, remove it, it will cause an error, kind of like when you delete a sketch or delete a extrude and you had a sketch based on it. So be careful with that. Okay, the last step will be in the next video, and that is to add the cross bracing back to our drawings. So we have those dimensions and parts in our drawings. So we'll do that next.